Welcome back to Real Clear Radio Hour, brought to you by the Competitive Enterprise Institute. I'm your host, Bill Frezza. Reporting from Radio Row at the 2015 Conservative Political Action Conference in Washington, D.C., we're pleased to have former New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson. Governor, welcome to the show.
Bill, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Governor, we're here at CPAC, really looking at the conservative wing of the Republican Party. And I'd like to talk to you about the future of the Republican Party. Particularly, Libertarians seem to be taking an increasing interest in working with Republicans, even inside the party. What do you make of that?
Well, I really I've diverged from the Republican Party. I believe that Republican right now just involves way too much explaining. And the explaining has to do with drug policy. It has to do with marriage equality. It has to do with immigration. And it has to do with dropping bombs when it comes to the military. And I diverge from all those issues, and I think most Americans diverge from those issues. I also believe that, for the most part, people are fiscally conservative. The notion that, you know what, you've got to balance your own household expenses with revenues, and that's not something that we're doing in government. I don't know as Republicans aren't closer to Democrats when it comes to spending.
So you're worried about the old bulls and their ways.
It doesn't seem to make any difference whether Republicans in office or Democrats in office. We still seem to be spending just as much money, printing as much money as ever before. And then, like I say, I always tell people I'm a flaming liberal when it comes to social issues. When it comes to other people, look, live your life the way you want to live it as long as that life doesn't interfere with mine. And then when it comes to dollars and cents, look, we need to balance the federal budget. That's my opinion on this.
So we live in a duopoly system, a duopoly political system. It's probably safe to say that a libertarian will never win national office. So what's a libertarian to do?
Well, you know what's wonderful is to be out here and be the truth teller, if you will. And as the truth teller, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think that perhaps people would begin to recognize what I'm saying as not only safe ground, but right ground, if you will.
If you were given the unpleasant task and were forced to reform the Republican Party, how would you do it?
Well, I don't know if it's reformable.
It's a bridge too far?
Well, perhaps it's a bridge too far. Given its current alienation of a whole lot of people, I don't know if it's possible.
Ron Paul and Rand Paul have chosen a different path. Many people believe they're libertarians in their hearts, but they've decided to work inside the Republican Party. Is this a hopeless quest for them?
Well, they are social conservatives, so perhaps it's not. Perhaps the Republican label is better. You know, the definition of a classical liberal is somebody who, flaming liberal when it comes to civil liberties. Bill, the ACLU came out with a report card on all the presidential candidates during the last election. I don't know if you saw this or not, but I want to say that 26 Liberty torches was a perfect score. This was the ACLU. Well, Mitt Romney, Newt Gingrich, and Rick Santorum had one Liberty torch between the three of them. In third place was Obama with 16. Second place was Ron Paul with 18. And I had the highest score with 21. So something I'm very proud of. The Constitution, civil liberties. It's very important. I think Republicans have lost sight of that, and they view the ACLU, for example, as a group that's the opposite of what they are. What they are is a group that fights for the Constitution, the Bill of Rights.
So do you see your role going forward in politics as an educator?
Well, I hate to think that anybody would have a takeaway from anything that I have to say, but having been governor of New Mexico 2 times, being
But as a Republican?
Being an entrepreneur, as a Republican educator, look, there's a different way of looking at these issues. There's, make the world safer, and that would be to call an end to the drone strikes, not to escalate the drone strikes. Making the world safer is not engaging ISIS because, I've said this forever. The day we get out of Iraq, whether it's tomorrow or 20 years from now, there's going to be chaos. Well, let's get out today and let's
let the chaos start working its way out.
Because it's what's going to happen. Well, that's exactly what happened. And if we go in again and again and again and again, forever, we're going to find ourselves in this unending military intervention mode.
Let's bring it back to domestic politics. You've thrown the Republicans under the bus. What about the Democrats? Is there any hope for the Democratic Party?
Absolutely not. There's not. The notion of being right on the social issues, but then when it comes to economics, look, I chose to be a Republican because it really mattered to me how we do spend our money. I really, as governor of New Mexico, as a Republican, was able to talk about social issues, I think, in a way that didn't alienate anybody. The social issue part of this alienates people, and Democrats, there's no way that Democrats can balance a checkbook. It's impossible. It's a party that is beholden to special interests, but I don't want to exclude Republicans from being beholden to special interests.
Just interests.
Different interests.
Are there enough Americans who are fiscally conservative and socially liberal, putting the obstacles aside, to form a new party?
There is, but the obstacles have to do with the media, and I don't know. Point out another thing during the last election was the website isidewith.com. Did you happen to get on?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
isidewith.com. They asked you 36 questions. You got online. They asked you 36 questions. And at the end of the 36 questions, you got paired up with the presidential candidate most in line with your views. 3.5 million people got online and
Gave it a shot.
and gave it a shot. Based on isidewith.com, I was the next president of the United States. So I am reflective of what most Americans believe and think, and I pose as evidence of that the website I side with during the last election.
But isn't it frustrating because from every practical perspective, you're unelectable?
Exactly. No, it's exactly. I don't want to call it frustrating because I wouldn't be doing this if it were frustrating. Back to your earlier question about being an educator, there's an education that does need to go along with change, and I'm hoping that I get to contribute to that.
So if you continue in that and looking forward to the next generation, what institutional changes would you make that would give a chance to a future presidential candidate who represented the views of most Americans to get elected?
Well, so Bill, right now we are suing the Presidential Debate Commission. The notion that if you're on the ballot in enough states to theoretically be elected president, in this case be able to get 270.
Right, if you got all the votes, yeah.
Well, so in the last election, there were 4 candidates that could have been elected president of the United States. Besides Obama and Romney, that would have been myself and Jill Stein of the Green Party. What the Presidential Debate Commission says, and the Presidential Debate Commission, although it sounds very governmental and sounds very unbiased, is made up of Democrats and Republicans.
Sure, they've got a lock.
Well, they've got a lock. So what they say is that you have to be at 15% in the polls to be in the presidential debate. Well, Bill, if you're not in the polls, how do you get... And by the way...
It's a catch-22.
Well, and by the way, just being in the polls is a self-fulfilling prophecy because... Gee, I heard these other names, and who are they, and why are...
Who's another above candidate?
Why are they included? Well, because, theoretically, they could be elected president of the United States.
Gary, do you have an organization behind you, or is this a one-man band?
Well, I'm the honorary chairman of Our America Initiative, and so we've got this presence in all 50 states, driving a whole lot of issues, Second Amendment issues, school choice issues, legalization of marijuana initiatives.
That's making some progress in a number of places.
Well, having a debate over whether or not we're going to legalize marijuana right now is like having a debate over whether the sun's going to come up tomorrow. That's going to happen.
You might as well put gay marriage in the same category, too.
Well, marriage equality, that's the same issue. Well, and really, this is America. Shouldn't you be allowed to live your life as you see fit? And now I'm back to government's fundamental role. Government's fundamental role is to protect you and I against individuals, groups, corporations, foreign governments that would do us harm.
How are you being treated here at CPAC? Are they treating you like you have a tinfoil hat, or are people engaging in some pretty interesting conversations?
Well, for the most part, I just go unnoticed, and I kind of like that. I do kind of like that. I'm an athlete. People ask me, well, who are you? Well, I want you to know that I'm an athlete. I'm an entrepreneur. I just completed the 7 summits, having summited the highest mountain on all 7 continents. I went to Antarctica in December and was able to. Well, I think it's mighty cool. And I am an entrepreneur. I am the president and CEO of a publicly traded company with a $100 million market capitalization in the marijuana space.
What?
Yes.
Tell us more about it. I didn't know that. Tell us more about that.
Well, cannabis sativa, and it's our intention to brand the best marijuana products in the world under the trademark High, small h, small I, which you will come to see. And I view it really as an opportunity to change the world for the better. From the medicinal side, you have marijuana products that directly compete with legal prescription drugs that statistically kill 100,000 people a year.
Yeah.
So you got marijuana products that, to this day, there's no documented death due to marijuana. And then on the recreational side, I have always maintained that legalizing marijuana will lead to less overall substance abuse because people will find it as such a safer alternative than alcohol or some of the harder drugs that really do harm.
So is it fair to call you the Joseph P. Kennedy of pot, having made his money in alcohol after Prohibition was lifted?
Well, we'll see if I make any money at this, but I do have an opportunity. I'm making $1 a year, but I've been given an equity stake in the company, and it's very, very exciting. It's irreverent.
Governor, how do you win over the nation's youth?
Well, I wouldn't couch it in terms of winning, but I would couch it in terms of giving them a voice. And I think that voice isn't just young people. I think it's the whole spectrum. But young people, you know what? Young people are, if I may, flaming liberals when it comes to our civil liberties. And as most of us are also really unbelievably conservative when it comes to dollars and cents.
Not all of them.
Well, no, not all of them, but I think that is the majority of Americans, and that's the majority of young people. And right now, that voice does not exist. Democrats have it wrong when it comes to dollars and cents, and Republicans have it wrong when it comes... Look, I don't want to denounce being a social conservative. Be a social conservative. Live your life as a social conservative. That's how you're going to impact other people's lives. That's how you're going to change things. Nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to try and make that government policy, inevitably you're going to put people in jail for choices that they are making and that only they should be making.
Governor, good luck in your mission.
Bill, thank you very much. Thank you.
That was Gary Johnson, former governor of New Mexico, here on Real Clear Radio Hour, brought to you by the Competitive Enterprise Institute. I'm your host, Bill Frezza. Real Clear Radio Hour is produced in conjunction with Real Clear Politics, America's premier independent political website. If you'd like to hear more, stop by realclearradio.org to sign up for updates on our weekly broadcast or access podcasts of our past programs. That wraps up our show for this week. Join us next week, same time, same station, for part 2 of our CPAC sampler. See you then.